Midsummer of 1953. Near the beach of Miami Beach is the Hotel Palm Beach, where the famous detective Frank Stone stayed. He had come here to spend a week relaxing, but he knew that his work could find him even here. After a long day at the beach, Frank went back to his room to rest. But when he entered the room, he found a woman lying on the floor with a kiwi in her head. Frank realized it was murder, and from that moment on, his rest was over. Frank called the police, and detectives from the local police station soon arrived. They started an investigation and asked Frank to help them in their investigation. Frank began to investigate all the circumstances of the woman's death and found several suspects. One of them was her ex-husband, who could not come to terms with the divorce. Another suspect was her new husband, who had a motive to enrich himself on her insurance. And there was a private detective who worked for the woman's terminally ill brother, who was trying to find out who the heir was. Frank thoroughly investigated each of the suspects, and found evidence that each of them could be the killer. He hypothesized that they were all involved in a conspiracy to collect insurance money. He noted that some of the evidence he found was not conclusive enough. He invited the police to investigate further to find more evidence against the suspects. The police agreed with Frank and continued their investigation. To increase the chances of success, Frank decided to take a risk himself and break into the private office of the suspected private detective. He intended to find additional evidence that would confirm his suspicions. Frank broke the lock on the office door and began looking for evidence. He quickly found a secret stash in a closet that contained a gold chain with a locket bearing a photograph of the woman who had been murdered. Frank realized that it was the last thing she wore before she died, and it was the key to solving the case. Frank returned to the police and claimed that he had found evidence of the crime. The gold locket chain was the main piece of evidence, as it had traces of blood on it that belonged to the suspected private investigator. He confessed to the murder, saying that he wanted to fulfill his client's order and receive a reward. Frank understood that the case was solved and justice had prevailed. He returned to the beach, but this time with a sense of great satisfaction that he had helped find the real killer. He was full of energy and ready to continue his work like never before. Is this story true? Try guess about it in the comments.